Jake Martinez turned off his ship's engine and looked out at the old mining station. It floated in space like a dead whale, dark and broken. No lights blinked on its surface. No radio signals came from inside. Perfect for salvage work. He put on his spacesuit and checked his tools. The station had been empty for 3 years. The mining company went broke and left everything behind. Now Jake could take what he wanted. Scrap metal, old computers, maybe some good equipment. It would pay for fuel and food for another month. The airlock on his ship opened with a soft hiss. Jake pushed himself through the dark space between his ship and the station. His boots made contact with the station's outer wall. He found an old airlock and used his cutting tool to open it. Inside the station, emergency lights cast red shadows on the walls. Jake turned on his helmet light and began to explore. The main hallway was long and empty. Dust floated in the air. His footsteps echoed in the silence. He checked the control room first. The computers were old but might be worth something. He pulled out some circuit boards and put them in his bag. The engine room had some good parts too. Jake worked for 2 hours moving through the station like a ghost. Then he found the cargo bay. The door was locked from the outside. Strange. Why would anyone lock an empty cargo bay? Jake used his tools to open it. The door slid back with a grinding sound. Cold air rushed out, much colder than the rest of the station. Jake stepped inside and swept his light around the room. Empty shelves, old containers, nothing special. But then his light caught something in the far corner. A cage. Jake walked closer, his heart beating faster. It was not a cage for animals. It was made for people. Or things that looked like people. The bars were thick metal. A small door hung open on broken hinges. Inside the cage, something moved. Jake aimed his light at the movement. What he saw made him stop breathing. A woman sat in the corner of the cage. At least she looked like a woman. But she was not human. Her skin was pale blue, almost white. Strange marks covered her arms and face. They looked like they should glow, but they were dim and gray. She held something in her arms. A baby. It was the same blue color as the woman. Both of them were shaking from the cold. The woman looked up at Jake's light. Her eyes were large and dark. She said something in a language he did not know. Her voice was weak and scared. Jake stood there for a moment, not sure what to do. He had come here to steal metal and machines. He had not come to find people, alien people, living people. The woman tried to stand up but fell back down. She was too weak. The baby in her arms made a soft crying sound. It sounded like any human baby when it was hungry or cold. Jake looked around the cargo bay. There were no food containers, no water bottles, no heaters. Just the cold, empty room and the broken cage. Someone had put these two here and left them to die. Jake felt anger rise in his chest. He had seen bad things in his life. He had been a soldier before he became a salvage man. But this was different. This was cruel in a way that made his stomach sick. He walked to the cage and knelt down. The woman pulled back, afraid of him. Jake held up his hands to show he meant no harm. He pointed to himself. "Jake," he said slowly. "My name is Jake." The woman stared at him. She said something again in her strange language, then she tried to speak in words he knew. "Help," she whispered. "Please help." Her voice broke Jake's heart. He could see she had been beautiful once. The marks on her skin were supposed to glow with health and life. Now she looked like a dying candle. Jake took off his jacket and put it around her shoulders. She was so thin he could feel her bones. The baby was tiny and cold. Jake was not good with babies, but he could see this one was very sick. "Okay," he said. "Okay. I help you." The woman's eyes filled with tears. She said something that sounded like "thank you" in her language. Jake looked around the cargo bay again. There was a computer panel near the door. Maybe it had records. Maybe it could tell him what happened here. He helped the woman stand up. She could barely walk. Jake put his arm around her and helped her move toward the door. The baby made small sounds in her arms. At the computer panel, Jake found power and turned it on. The screen showed security logs from the past 3 months. He read the last few entries. His anger grew hotter with each line. The woman was named Zara. She came from a race called the Villani. Her husband had died in an accident. His family blamed her for his death. They brought her here with her baby and locked her in the cage. They left her with no food, no water, no heat. They wanted her to die slowly. The last log entry was from 3 weeks ago. It said, "Let this be a lesson to others who marry outside their clan. Some mistakes cannot be forgiven." Jake turned off the computer. His hands were shaking with rage. He looked at Zara and her baby. 3 weeks with no food. 3 weeks in the cold. They should have been dead. But they were not dead. They were fighters. Jake made a decision that would change his life forever. He was going to save them. He was going to take them to his ship. He was going to help them live. He did not know that this choice would make him enemies. He did not know that people would hunt him across the galaxy. He did not care. Some things were more important than safety. Jake picked up Zara's baby while she leaned on his arm. Together, they walked out of the cold, dark cargo bay toward his ship and toward Hope. Jake's ship was not big, but it was warm. He helped Zara sit down in the small kitchen area while he held her baby. The little one was so light, like holding a bird. "Water," Zara whispered. Her lips were cracked and dry. Jake got a cup of water and held it to her mouth. She drank slowly, trying not to be sick. The baby opened its eyes and looked at Jake. The eyes were the same dark color as its mother's. Jake looked around his ship. He lived alone and liked it that way. His ship had 1 bed, 1 chair, and enough food for 1 person. Now he had 3 people on board, and 2 of them were not even human. But he could not think about that now. Zara needed help, and the baby was getting weaker. Jake went to his medical kit and found some nutrient bars. He broke one into small pieces and mixed it with warm water. It made a thin soup that smelled bad but had vitamins and minerals. "For the baby," he said, showing Zara the mixture. Zara nodded and took the cup. She dipped her finger in the soup and put it in the baby's mouth. The little one sucked on her finger and seemed to like the taste. Jake watched them and felt something strange in his chest. He had been alone for so long that he forgot what it felt like to care about other people. But watching Zara feed her baby made him remember. "What is the baby's name?" Jake asked. Zara looked up at him. "Kiv," she said. "His name is Kiv." "Kiv," Jake repeated. The name sounded musical in his mouth. Good name. Over the next few days, Jake learned more about Zara and her people. The Villani came from a planet with 3 suns. They were traders and builders traveling between worlds to sell their goods. The marks on their skin glowed different colors depending on their health and feelings. Zara's marks were almost gray now, but Jake could see tiny flickers of light in them sometimes. She was getting stronger. Jake changed the ship's air system to make it better for Villani lungs. He shared his food, even though it meant he would be hungry later. He gave up his bed so Zara and Kiv could sleep warm and safe. Zara tried to help as much as she could. She was smart and learned quickly. Jake showed her how to use the ship's computer, and she showed him how to fix a broken part using Villani, tools she had hidden in her clothes. "My people are good with machines," she explained. "We feel the energy inside them." Jake was amazed when she put her hands on a broken engine part and somehow made it work again. Her marks glowed a little brighter when she used this ability. "How do you do that?" he asked. Zara smiled for the first time since he found her. "It is hard to explain in your language. We touch the spirit of the machine." Jake did not understand, but he did not need to understand. It worked, and that was enough. As the days passed, Zara told Jake more about what happened to her. Her husband's name was Ren. He died when a mining machine exploded. It was an accident, but his family said Zara brought bad luck to their clan. Ren loved me, Zara said, holding Kiv while he slept. But his family never accepted me. I came from a different clan, a poorer clan. They said I was not good enough for him. Jake felt angry again. They had no right to leave you to die. In my culture, they did have the right, Zara said sadly. When a husband dies, his family owns the wife. They can do what they want with her. That's wrong, Jake said. Yes, Zara agreed. It is wrong, but it is the law on my world. Jake made a promise to himself. He would not let anyone hurt Zara or Kiv again. He did not care about their laws or their customs. Some things were just wrong, no matter what planet you came from. Zara began to teach Jake words in her language. Her people called their planet Velnara, which meant three-sun home. She taught him to say friend, which was Kala, and thank you, which was Shenvo. Jake taught Zara more English. She was a fast learner. Soon she could have simple conversations with him. She told him stories about her planet and her people. She described cities that grew like trees, reaching toward Uja, the sky. She talked about markets where people from 100 worlds came to trade. I want to see my home again, she said one evening as they watched the stars through the ship's window. But I can never go back. They think I am dead, and it must stay that way. Why? Jake asked. If they know I am alive, they will hunt me. Vectar, the elder who ordered my death, cannot let me live. I know too much about his crimes. I know he stole money from the clan. I know he hurt other women. Jake understood. Zara was not just a victim. She was a witness. That night, Jake's ship computer beeped with a message. He read it and felt his blood turn cold. The message was from a bounty hunter. It said that someone was offering money for information about a Vellani female and her child. A lot of money. Jake deleted the message and changed his ship's identification codes. He set course for the outer rim, where there were fewer patrols and fewer questions. But as he watched Zara rock Kiv to sleep, he knew they could not run forever. Sooner or later, Vectar would find them. When that time came, Jake would be ready. He had found something worth fighting for, something worth protecting. For the first time in years, Jake Martinez had a purpose beyond just surviving. He had a family to keep safe. Zara looked up at him from across the small room. The marks on her skin glowed a little brighter, showing her growing strength. Kiv slept peacefully in her arms. Jake, she said softly. Shenvo, thank you. You are welcome, Jake replied. We are Kala now. Friends. Family. Zara smiled, and for a moment her marks glowed almost bright enough to light the whole room. Jake thought it was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen, but in the back of his mind he worried. How long could they stay hidden? How long before the hunters found them? He looked out at the dark space ahead and made another promise. Whatever came next, whatever dangers they faced, he would not let anyone put Zara and Kiv in a cage ever again. Some fights were worth having, no matter how dangerous they were. Jake knew they were being followed 3 days before he saw the ships. It started with small things. A cargo freighter that appeared in 3 different star systems, a repair station that asked too many questions, a trader who offered to buy information about Jake's passengers. Jake had been a soldier once. He knew how hunters worked. They were closing in like wolves around a campfire, getting closer each day. We need to change course, he told Zara as she fed Kiv his morning meal. Are they close? She asked. Her marks had been dim all morning. She could sense danger the same way Jake could smell rain coming. Close enough, Jake said. He pulled up a star map on the ship's computer. There's an asteroid field in the Kappa sector. Dangerous, but it might hide us. Zara looked at the map with her large dark eyes. The gravity currents there are very complex. Your navigation computers cannot handle them. Then we'll have to go around it, Jake said. No. Zara stood up, holding Kiv against her shoulder. I can guide us through. My people understand gravity better than yours do. We feel it like you feel wind. Jake stared at her. That's impossible. Ships get lost in those fields and never come out. Ships with only machines for guidance, Zara said. I am not a machine. 2 hours later, Jake was wondering if he had made a terrible mistake. His ship flew through a maze of spinning rocks, each one big enough to crush them. The computer kept beeping warnings and showing red danger signs. But Zara stood beside him with her eyes closed, one hand on the navigation controls. Her marks glowed brighter than Jake had ever seen them. She moved the ship left and right, up and down, following paths that only she could see. "There," she whispered, pointing to empty space between two giant asteroids. "The gravity flows like water there, follow it." Jake could not see anything, but he trusted her. The ship slipped through gaps that looked too small. It rode invisible currents that pulled it along like a river. Behind them, Jake saw the hunter ships trying to follow. One of them flew too close to a spinning rock and had to turn back. Another got caught in a gravity well and spent an hour trying to break free. "We're losing them," Jake said with amazement. "Not yet," Zara replied. "There is one more thing we must do." She guided the ship toward a cluster of asteroids that moved in a slow circle. Jake's computer screamed warnings at him. The rocks were too close together, no ship could fit between them. "Zara, this is crazy," Jake said. "Trust me," she whispered. Jake closed his eyes and let her take control. He felt the ship twist and turn in ways that should have torn it apart. Metal groaned. The engine made sounds he had never heard before. Then everything went quiet. Jake opened his eyes. They were floating in a hollow space inside the asteroid cluster. Rocks surrounded them on all sides, but they were not touching the ship. It was like being inside a stone bubble. "How?" Jake asked. "The asteroids dance," Zara explained. "Every few hours they move apart just enough for a small ship to enter. Then they close again. We are hidden here." Through the ship's window, Jake watched the hunter ships search the asteroid field. They passed close to the hiding place several times but never found the entrance. After 6 hours, they gave up and flew away. Jake let out a long breath. "You saved us." "We saved each other," Zara said. She sat down heavily in the co-pilot's chair. Using her abilities for so long had made her very tired. Her marks flickered like dying candles. Jake brought her water and food. Kiv was sleeping peacefully, not knowing how close they had all come to being caught. "How long can we stay here?" Jake asked. "A few days," Zara said. "Then the rocks will dance again and we can leave." While they waited, Jake worked on improving his ship. He added better shields and upgraded the weapons. Zara helped by using her abilities to make the engine run more smoothly. But Jake knew that hiding was not enough. They needed help. On the second day, Jake sent a coded message to an old friend. Lisa Parker ran a small trading station on the edge of human space. She had been Jake's partner during the war, and he trusted her with his life. Her reply came 12 hours later. "Safe harbor available. Come quickly." Jake had not seen Lisa in 3 years, but she welcomed him like family when his ship docked at her station. She was a short woman with gray hair and smart eyes. She looked at Zara and Kiv without surprise. "Refugees?" she asked. "Something like that," Jake said. Lisa gave them a room in the station's living quarters. She provided clothes that fit Zara and special food for Kiv. She asked no questions and demanded no payment. But that evening, she sat down with Jake in her office and spoke seriously. "You're in deep trouble," she said. "Word is out on the networks. Someone wants your Volani friend very badly. The bounty is enough to buy a small planet." "Who's hunting her?" Jake asked. "Clan Vector," Lisa said. "They have connections everywhere. Crime families, corrupt officials, bounty hunters. They've put out contracts on all of you." Jake felt cold. "All of us?" "You too, Jake. They want you dead or alive. They say you kidnapped the woman and her child." Jake laughed bitterly. "Kidnapped. Right. I believe your version," Lisa said. "But belief won't stop the hunters. They'll find you eventually. So what do I do?" Lisa leaned forward. "I can get you new identification, new ship registration. You could disappear into the outer colonies where no one asks questions. And live in hiding forever? Better than being dead." Jake thought about it for a long moment. He could take the easy way out. Run and hide and hope the hunters never found them. But that was not really living, that was just surviving. "No," he said finally. I'm tired of running. Lisa raised her eyebrows. What's the alternative? I fight back. Jake, be reasonable. You're one man against a whole clan. I know someone who might help, Jake said. Marcus Cole, the journalist. Lisa whistled softly. Marcus Cole was famous for exposing corruption and fighting for the underdog. He had brought down governors and crime bosses with nothing but the truth and a camera. That's either very smart or very stupid, Lisa said. Maybe both, Jake agreed. That night, Jake sat with Zara on the observation deck of the station. Through the big windows, they could see stars and distant planets. Kiv slept in Zara's arms, making the soft sounds that all babies make when they dream. Lisa says we can run, Jake told her. Hide in the outer colonies. But you do not want to run, Zara said. It was not a question. No. Do you? Zara was quiet for a long time. Her marks glowed softly in the starlight. I am tired of being afraid, she said finally. I'm tired of hiding. Then we fight? We fight, she agreed. Jake looked at little Kiv, sleeping peacefully in his mother's arms. The baby had never done anything wrong. He deserved to grow up free, not hiding in the shadows. I'm going to call Marcus Cole in the morning, Jake said. And if he says no? Jake smiled grimly. Then we find another way. I made you a promise, Zara. No one is going to put you in a cage again. Ever. Outside the window, a shooting star burned across the darkness. Jake chose to see it as a good sign. Tomorrow, they would stop running and start fighting back. Marcus Cole arrived at Lisa's station 3 days later. He was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. Jake had seen his news reports for years, but meeting him in person was different. Marcus had the look of someone who had seen too much evil in the galaxy. So you're the salvage man who's causing all the trouble, Marcus said when they met in Lisa's office. I'm the salvage man who found a woman and her baby left to die, Jake replied. Marcus nodded slowly. Tell me everything. For 2 hours, Jake told his story. Marcus recorded it all on a small device. He asked hard questions and wanted proof for everything. When Jake was finished, Marcus turned to Zara. Now I need to hear your side, he said gently. Zara's hands shook as she began to speak. She told Marcus about her marriage to Ren. She described how his family never accepted her. She explained the mining accident and how Vectar blamed her for Ren's death. Vectar said I was cursed, Zara said, her voice barely above a whisper. He said my curse killed my husband and would kill others. The clan voted to remove the curse by letting me die. What about the baby? Marcus asked. They said Kiv carried the curse too. He had to die with me. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked, Do you have any proof of what Vectar did? Zara reached into her clothes and pulled out a small crystal. This is a memory stone. It records important events. I hid it. When they took me to the station, Marcus took the crystal carefully. What's on it? The trial where they sentenced me. Vectar's words. The votes of the clan elders. Zara's marks flickered with pain at the memory. Everything. Marcus smiled for the first time since arriving. This changes everything. With this evidence, I can broadcast the truth across the galaxy. Vectar's reputation will be destroyed. But their plans were interrupted the next morning. Lisa woke them up early with bad news. They found us, she said. 3 ships just dropped out of hyperspace. They're demanding I turn over Jake and the Villani woman. Jake looked out the window and saw the ships. They were big and heavily armed, too powerful for Lisa's small station to fight. How did they find us so fast? He asked. Someone talked, Lisa said grimly. There's a spy on the station. Marcus grabbed his recording equipment. We need to get this story out before they stop us, but it was too late. The station's communication system went dead. Emergency lights began flashing. They're jamming all signals, Lisa said. Nothing gets in or out. Jake felt trapped, but he was not ready to give up. There has to be another way. There is. said a voice from the doorway. Everyone turned to see Amy Rodriguez, the station administrator. She was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, but she looked very worried. "The ships out there belong to Clan Vectar," Amy said. "They're claiming legal authority to take the woman and child. They say Jake kidnapped them." "That's a lie," Jake said angrily. "I know," Amy replied. "But they have official documents, treaties. Between our governments say I have to respect their clan laws." Jake felt his heart sink. After everything they had been through, were they going to lose because of paperwork? But Marcus stepped forward. "Not necessarily. There's something called the right of protection. It's an old law, but it's still valid." "What does that mean?" Zara asked. "It means that any person can claim guardianship over another if that person was abandoned or abused. The guardian becomes legally responsible for protecting them." Amy frowned. "I've never heard of that law." "Most people haven't," Marcus said. "But it's real. I used it in a story once. A human trader claimed protection over some alien slaves." Jake understood immediately. "I claim protection over Zara and Kiv." "It's not that simple," Amy said. "You would have to prove abuse in front of a legal court, and Vectar would have the right to challenge your claim." "Then let's have a trial," Jake said. Amy looked shocked. "Here? Now? Why not? You're a legal administrator. This station is neutral territory. We have witnesses and evidence." Amy thought about it for a long moment. "It's crazy, but it might work. The clan can't refuse a legal challenge if it's properly done." An hour later, the station's main meeting hall was set up like a courtroom. Amy sat behind a desk as the judge. Marcus had his cameras ready. Jake stood on one side with Zara and Kiv. On the other side stood Vectar himself. Vectar was an old Villani with dark robes and marks that glowed with anger. He had come to the station expecting an easy victory. Now he found himself in a legal battle. "This is outrageous," Vectar declared. "The woman belongs to our clan. She must face justice." "For her crimes." "What crimes?" Amy asked. "She brought a curse upon her husband. She caused his death through her bad luck." Jake wanted to laugh. "You can't put someone on trial for bad luck." But Amy looked serious. "In Villani culture, curses are considered real. If their court convicted her, that conviction might be legal here too." Jake felt panic rising in his chest. Were they going to lose on a technicality? Then Zara stepped forward. For the first time since Jake met her, she stood tall and proud. Her marks began to glow brighter. "Elder Vectar," she said in a clear, strong voice, "I challenge your words. You did not convict me of bringing a curse. You convicted me because I knew your secrets." Vectar's marks flickered with surprise and fear. "You speak lies, woman." "Do I?" Zara pulled out the memory stone. "Should we let everyone hear what really happened at my trial?" The room went silent. Vectar stared at the crystal like it was a poisonous snake. Marcus took the crystal and connected it to the station's computer system. "Let's see what really happened." The crystal projected a hologram in the center of the room. It showed a scene from 3 months ago. Zara stood in chains before a group of Villani elders, but the sound quality was perfect. They all heard Vectar's voice. "You know too much about our business, woman. About the money I took. About the deals I made. You must die before you can speak." The hologram showed other elders objecting. One said, "This is not about curses, Vectar. This is about your greed." But Vectar silenced them with threats. The recording showed him bribing some elders and threatening others until they voted for Zara's death. When the recording ended, the room was completely quiet. Vectar's marks had gone completely gray with shame and rage. Amy looked at him with disgust. "You sentenced an innocent woman and her child to death to cover up your own crimes." "The recording proves nothing," Vectar said desperately. "It proves everything," Marcus said. He had filmed the whole scene. "The galaxy will see this. Your own people will know what kind of leader you really are." Vectar realized he was trapped. His lies were exposed. His reputation was destroyed. But he was not ready to surrender. If I cannot have the woman, he snarled, then no one can. He pulled out a weapon and aimed it at Zara. She dies here now. But Jake was faster. He threw himself between Vectar and Zara. The weapon fired, but the shot hit Jake in the shoulder instead of Zara's heart. Jake fell to the floor, bleeding but alive. Station security rushed in and arrested Vectar. Amy stood up behind her desk. I rule that Jake Martinez has the legal right to protect Zara and her child. Clan Vectar has no authority over them. As Jake lay on the floor holding his wounded shoulder, he heard Zara crying. But they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of joy. They had won. They were free. Are you okay? Zara asked, kneeling beside him. Jake smiled despite the pain. I'm fine. We're all fine now. Kiv reached out with his tiny hand and touched Jake's face. The baby seemed to understand that Jake had saved them all. Outside, Marcus was already broadcasting the story to the galaxy. By tomorrow, everyone would know the truth about Vectar and his crimes. Jake closed his eyes and smiled. The fight was over. They could finally stop running and start living. 6 months later, Jake stood in the doorway of a small house on Haven Colony and watched Kiv take his first steps. The little Villani boy wobbled across the wooden floor, his marks glowing bright blue with excitement. Zara knelt on the other side of the room with her arms open, encouraging him. Come on, Kiv, she said in English, come to Mama. Kiv took 3 shaky steps and fell into his mother's arms. Both of them laughed, and Jake felt his heart grow warm. The house was simple but comfortable. 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, and a big window that looked out over the colony's gardens. It was nothing like the cold cargo bay where Jake had found them, or the cramped ship where they had hidden for weeks. It was home. Jake's shoulder had healed well after Vectar shot him. The colony's doctor said he would always have a scar, but Jake did not mind. Scars told stories, and this one told a story worth remembering. After the trial on Lisa's station, things had moved quickly. Marcus Cole's news story spread across the galaxy in hours. The recording from Zara's memory stone was played on every major network. People everywhere were shocked by Vectar's cruelty. Within days, Vectar was removed from power by his own clan. Many of the elders who had supported him were also punished. A new leader took control and publicly apologized for what had been done to Zara. But the apology came too late. Zara could never go home safely. Too many people still believed the old ways. Too many still thought she was cursed. That was when Jake heard about Haven Colony. Haven was a small world on the edge of human space where refugees from many planets had built a new life together. Humans lived next to aliens of dozens of species. Everyone was welcome if they were willing to work and follow the colony's simple rules. No violence, no theft, and no one gets left behind. Jake sold his salvage ship and used the money to book passage to Haven. The colony leaders welcomed them with open arms. They gave Zara and Kiv a place to live and Jake a job helping to maintain the colony's machines. At first, Jake lived in his own small apartment across town. He visited Zara and Kiv every day, but he did not want to assume he was part of their family. He had saved them, yes, but that did not mean they owed him anything. But as the weeks passed, something beautiful happened. Kiv began to call Jake Papa Jake. He would reach for Jake when he was sad and fall asleep in Jake's arms during evening visits. Zara started asking Jake to stay for dinner, then for the evening, then overnight when Kiv was sick. One morning, Jake woke up on Zara's couch and found her making breakfast for all 3 of them. It felt so natural, so right that he almost cried. Jake, Zara said that morning, I have something to ask you. What is it? The colony leaders want to expand the settlement. They need someone to design new buildings and power systems. They asked me to lead the project. Jake smiled. That's wonderful, you'll be great at it. I will only take the job if you help me, Zara said. I need a partner I can trust. Jake looked at her beautiful face, at her marks glowing soft gold in the morning light. You trust me? With my life, she said simply. With Kiv's life. With everything. That was the day Jake finally admitted to himself what he had known for months. He loved Zara. not just as the woman he had saved, but as the strong, intelligent, caring person she had become, and he loved Kiv like his own son. "I would be honored to work with you," he said. Now, 6 months later, their partnership had grown into something more. They worked together during the day, designing homes and schools for the growing colony. In the evenings, they cooked dinner together and played with Kiv in the garden. Other refugees arrived on Haven every week. Jake and Zara helped them find homes and jobs. They never turned anyone away who needed help. One evening, as Jake was putting Kiv to bed, the little boy looked up at him with his big dark eyes. "Papa Jake," he said in his tiny voice, "I love you." Jake felt tears in his eyes. "I love you too, little man. Are you going to stay with Mama and me forever?" Jake looked across the room at Zara, who was pretending to read but listening to every word. "Yes," Jake said, "forever and always." Kiv smiled and closed his eyes. Within minutes, he was asleep. Jake walked to the kitchen where Zara was making tea. She handed him a cup, and they sat together at the small table. "The Colony Council wants to make you an official citizen," Zara said. "They think you've earned it." "Have I? You saved 2 lives. You fought an evil man. You helped build a new home for dozens of families." Zara reached across the table and took his hand. "Yes, Jake Martinez. You have earned it." Jake squeezed her hand gently. Her marks glowed brighter at his touch, showing her happiness. "There's something else," Zara said. "The council wants to know if you'll run for mayor in the next election." Jake laughed. "Me? A politician?" "A leader," Zara corrected. "Someone who makes hard choices to protect people. Someone who never gives up when fighting for what's right." Jake thought about it. A year ago, he had been a lonely salvage man with no purpose except survival. Now he had a family, a home, and a community that looked up to him. "Maybe," he said, "if you'll be my partner." "In politics, in everything." Zara's marks glowed so bright they lit up the whole kitchen. She leaned across the table and kissed him softly. "Partners in everything," she agreed. Later that night, Jake stood on his front porch and looked up at the stars. The same stars he had stared at for years from the cockpit of his salvage ship. But they looked different now. They looked like friends instead of destinations. Somewhere out there, other people were trapped and alone. Other families were being torn apart by greed and hatred. Other children were crying in the dark. Jake had learned that one person could make a difference. One person willing to fight for what was right could change everything. He thought about the scared woman he had found in that cold cage 6 months ago. She was sleeping peacefully now in the bedroom behind him, safe and loved. Her son was growing up free, surrounded by people who cared about him. Jake had kept his promise. No one would ever put Zara and Kiv in a cage again. But his promise had grown bigger than that. Now he promised to help anyone who needed it. Anyone who was lost or hurt or afraid. Haven Colony would be a place where no one was forgotten. No one was left to die in the cold and dark. Everyone mattered. Everyone deserved a chance. Jake Martinez, the former salvage man, had found something more valuable than any treasure. He had found purpose. He had found love. He had found home. And he would spend the rest of his life protecting it. Inside the barrow house, baby. Kiv made a soft sound in his sleep. Jake smiled and went back inside to check on his family. His real family. The one he had chosen, and the one that had chosen him. The stars could wait. His family needed him here.